Hi, and welcome to this quick tool review. This time around we'll take a look at another product by Vevor, and I'd like to thank Vevor for sending me these. They sent me a bunch of tools to evaluate, which if I had to pay for, I wouldn't be able to afford to do on this channel, so hopefully I'm finding some useful tools for you to look at. Speaking of useful tools, before I open up this box, Husky, which is a brand at Lowe's, if I remember right, is selling these serrated utility blades. And for cutting cardboard, normally a utility knife blade, you get like 1 or 2 boxes and they're dull. These last much, much longer. And even if you buy the titanium nitride coated blades, they don't last very long, but these guys do. And there's what one of the blades looks like up close and personal. And it's worked out really well. And I'll show you when I'm cutting this. I've already cut up a bunch of boxes with this. And you'll see that it cuts through the cardboard like butter. So I'm not even trying to go where the seams are. I'm just cutting straight across the cardboard there, just to remove a piece, just to show you. And it was surprisingly easy. I just missed a little section there. So I guess you can tell what this item is, maybe. It is a ladder, and it's an 18-foot extension ladder. So I'm really curious how well made it is. It claims it's good for up to 400 pounds, which is insane. And it stores in this tiny compact little form here, yet still goes up to 18 feet, which is pretty amazing. Now this is not a freestanding ladder. This is the kind of ladder you use to lean against something. So different than like a standard A-frame ladder. They have A-frame ladders that go to 18 feet, but it takes 2 people to move them around. They're really awkward and they twist and swing around a lot at the top. I know because we have at the studios, we have a lot of 14s, 12s and 14s, which I've been on before. It's not very much fun. You got to actually have someone standing on the bottom step to keep it anchored well when you're using it, because they wobble all over the place. Leaning type ladders, they don't have the advantage of being able to freestand and use them in place, but if you've got something to lean against, pretty handy. So the ladder comes with 2 hooks, which mount in the top somehow. I'll have to figure that part out. Each step locks in place. And they want to ensure that when you move each segment up, you actually lock it in place. There's a red position supposedly that's unlocked, and green means locked. So we'll check that out. Comes with 2 hooks that mount in the top. And you might think, why do you have hooks? Because you're not normally able to hook the ladder on something. They also have the advantage when you lean this ladder up against the building with these hooks, and the top of the hook is on the flat section of the roof. When you go side to side, as the ladder rotates this way, it won't be able to, because these will prevent it, because they're supporting it equally on each side. And you're wondering, well, but each one of these segments opens a specific distance and locks, so how do you make sure that these hooks end up on the roof or on the top of whatever you're trying to lean this against? And that's because you can lean the ladder out a little bit to compensate. Now you have to stay within the range of safe leaning angles, but that's always an option to give you some flexibility there. The safe leaning angle for a ladder is around 75 degrees with a 4-to-1 rule, which means if the ladder is 10 feet tall, the base of the ladder should be 2.5 feet out from the wall. At least that's how I interpret that rule. Always make sure that you have the appropriate lean, because otherwise you risk having the ladder topple over on you. Oh wow, these individual, so these do not have green and red like the instruction manual said. The instruction manual is decent. The instruction manual also says this is only good for 375 pounds, not 400 like the Amazon site. They're pretty close to each other. They don't say how the hooks engage, which I will try and figure out in a second. These end caps pop off. You flip them into the unlock position, and you can pop these guys into place. I wonder if that goes in further. No, that's it. It's kind of a sloppy fit. One thing that I like about this is going to let me see what the inside of this fitting looks like here. This top one's just plastic. They come off pretty tough at first. Yeah, they don't fit in any farther than that. They have their rubberized coating that protects them. It's coming off at the bottom. They were dipped, I'm guessing. And the point of these is to keep the ladder from turning side to side, or if you have something to hook on, to keep the ladder in place completely. All right, let's stand this guy up and see what we can see down these the pin sections here, because I'm really curious on how these pins work on each segment. So I don't know if you can see this, the locking pins are steel. And it looks like they're engaging with aluminum though, which is not ideal. They do recommend that you, if you're a professional, you inspect this ladder before every use. The construction's pretty reasonable. Everything's aluminum for weight. The end pieces are cast aluminum that the pins are engaging with. Although the pin also engages with the shaft on the inside here. And the individual segments extend very easily, which is why you need this Velcro bit here if you're going to want to move this guy around, because it wants to just open up very easily. Let me flip this around this way. So you can see the steps on each level. They get smaller towards the very top because you're never supposed to be on the top couple steps anyways. So they didn't plan them to be as large to probably dissuade you from doing it, although I'm sure everyone's done it at one point or another. They've got these rubber bumpers on here so that you won't damage whatever you're leaning this against. But once this Velcro bit comes off here, the segments pop up really easily, and that's the roof of my garage. This thing is very, very smooth. Oh, that's interesting. So you got to keep your fingers out of the way when you're lowering this because it just wants to come down on its own. So you got to keep your hands on the outside. That can be a really rough lesson to learn, so pay attention. There are rubber bumpers on the bottom of each one of these levels too to stop this from slamming so hard. So the rivets themselves look like they're steel of some kind, maybe magnetic stainless steel, because they all faintly pull in. I thought perhaps I was feeling the pin in there, but it's not. The pin's pretty deep in there. The pin's also steel, but I can feel the rivet all by itself here, as you can see. So that's nice construction. So what I noticed when you set this guy up, you're going to raise the bottom segments first and leave the top segments together to the point where they attach up there, as you can see. And the reason for that is you need the steps. Otherwise you're blocked by all the compressed bottom segments. So you need those raised first. And the top segments are pretty heavy. So that's like 20-something pounds. So you might want to raise this ladder horizontally lying on the ground and then lean it up against the building, locking the bottom segments into place first, because otherwise the top segments are kind of heavy, so it's kind of hard to raise dead vertically. So that's something to watch out for. It doesn't even balk, and I'm embarrassed to say, but I weigh about 300 pounds, or what is that, like 120 kilos? So I'm not a light guy at all because I'm overweight. And so it doesn't even stress under the load of my standing on it, which is pretty impressive. The steps all feel really good. They've got corrugation or texture on them for good grip. The top steps, not quite as much. The bottom part has a nice cushy rubber bit that grips the ground pretty well. Now, if you're on a slick surface, be very, very careful the bottom doesn't kick out on you. However, again, I'm just using this inside my garage here, and that is where those hooks come in. So the hooks are just across a beam up there, and it's not actually carrying any of the vertical load. It's carrying a little bit of horizontal, the leaning load, the portion that goes in that direction, but it's mostly to prevent it from going anywhere. So they're not quite tight on there, but it does stay in place very nicely. So that's excellent. Here's the ladder partially extended. And you'll notice that I extended the top part first because that's how it naturally wants to raise. But that leaves a big gap on the bottom. I think this is enough that I could easily step this, but you got to be careful. One thing I do notice is that when you're up on a ladder that's extended this far, there's a fair amount of flex, but I think that'd be in any ladder, so there's a lot of springs, so be really careful. All right, so you can see the amount of flex in the ladder here. I'm just sort of standing here, just pushing gently with my hand, and you can see the amount of flex you get there. I think that'd be standard for any kind of ladder, but be prepared for it. There is a problem, like I said, with extending the top part of the ladder and not the bottom. It makes this first step kind of a high step, and same on the way down. So you might want to extend the other way around with these segments first. Those hooks are really grabbing. Now I've got it at the peak, so it really doesn't want to move at all, which is great. No side to side sway. If I was off the peak, that'd be a little bit riskier, but The hooks definitely are a useful feature, and I think I'll just use them always, almost always with it on. When lowering the ladder that's up this high, if you drop the top segments, they'll slide down and they sort of slam down. And one thing you got to be careful is all these segments below it, as the weight starts to accumulate, the pin is engaged with the aluminum tube, I'm thinking, in there. I can't see for sure. Hopefully it would be nice if they had a metal sleeve in the aluminum that the pin engaged with, but I kind of doubt it. So with all the weight of all these segments above it weighing down, as you drop these segments hard, the pins on the lower ones are going to take all that force and it may damage the ladder. So it might be a much better idea to lie the ladder down on its side and then compress the segments that way so you don't damage it. Overall, I think the ladder is a pretty nice, nicely constructed, well-designed ladder. The price is about $150 something right now for an 18-foot ladder. That's an incredibly good price. You couldn't even touch an A-frame ladder, especially a Werner, for that price. This is an aluminum ladder, not fiberglass. You've got to remember that. Don't use it anywhere near power. You could get electrocuted. Inspect your ladder often if you're going to use it a lot, because where these pins intersect with the aluminum tubes, just be careful that they're not getting the aluminum deformed too much. I think that'll show up in this thing not sliding as smoothly anymore. So just be careful. I think these hooks are a great idea. The fact they're removable is also nice, but I think generally I'll leave them in there. Not only can you use the hooks to store this, but the hooks will work up against a building and prevent this from rocking side to side as much. That's pretty handy. The steps are great grip, big enough to feel really comfortable. The top steps get smaller. See, the steps end before the last two segments, but that's not a problem, because if you remember right, you're never supposed to stand on a ladder above the top step at all, or probably two steps, as just general safety. Remember the 75-degree rule. Have this leaning at 75 degrees or 4 to 1. So if this is out 18 feet, that's pretty close to 20. So just a really rough estimate, that would mean that you should have approximately 5 feet of lean out. The base should be 5 feet away from where the end is attached, approximately. That's a little over because this is only an 18-foot ladder, and that's for a 20-foot calculation. But you get my point. 4 to 1 ratio. So 4 times the height, 1 time out from the building. I'd like this not to be plastic. The pins are steel and they go in and out very smoothly. Out of this piece here. I'm guessing the pin goes through the casting here and then engages with the aluminum tube. The aluminum tube seems like a weak spot to me. It'd be nice if there was some steel part in there. I tried taking this apart from both sides, but I can't get in there to see how they did it without ruining the ladder. I don't have a stainless steel riveting gun, so I just really don't want to ruin the ladder just to see how it's made, but I am very curious. I think that's generally it. I think it's a pretty darn good ladder for the price. Again, if it's your daily user, make sure to inspect it often and give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Hope you find it useful. Hope to see you next time.